Above him, on the wall of the promontory, Wiglaf heard the struggle below, and shame filled his heart. He hesitated not. Drawing his sword, he ran to his friend's aid as fast as his legs would carry him, while below the earth Beornwulf fought on, slowly giving ground as the beast pushed him back towards the entrance to his underground lair. He stepped into the stream and waded fast to Beornwulf's aid. He could hear the struggle now, and he bellowed as loud as his voice was able. "Go on, dear Beornwulf, and do what you said you'd do when you were young and full of vigour. Now must you, brave in deeds, your heart unwavering, with all your might thy life defend. To the last I will aid you, my friend." Strength from support flowed into Beornwulf's veins, and ignoring the life slowly stealing away from him, he fought on with renewed determination. Wiglaf joined the assault as Beornwulf and the beast emerged from the tunnel back into the daylight. He did not have time to take in what he was witnessing, and it was not his wont to hesitate in times of battle. Heaving his sword high, he drove it down with all his might, and his blade connected hard with the serpent's head. Enraged as pain shot through its body, it rose up once again and crashed down hard, its mighty jaws sinking into Beo's shield and the flesh of his shoulder and neck. But Beo did not hesitate for a second in his agonies. He saw his opportunity as the beast was locked upon him. Dropping his sword in the reeking waters, he drew his razor-edged dagger from its sheath and drove it upwards from beneath him with all the strength he had left to offer. The sharp knife sunk deeply into the beast's softer underbelly, and Beo saw a spasm of pain and fear flare in its eyes as the blade pierced its vital organs. The beast's strength was stolen quickly away from it then, the force of its jaws on his shield and his shoulder easing off as the light of life dimmed slowly inside the mighty creature's eyes. As it released its grip and sank slowly to the bed of the stream, blood gushed forth from Beo's new wound. His mind clouded over, and he slipped into the black chasm of unconsciousness. Wiglaf caught him in his arms and heaved Beo's enormous frame from the blooded waters. Beornwulf awoke to find himself propped up against the stone port wall. As his eyes began to clear, he saw to his left the enormous Roman arches held aloft by vast stone pillars, and he marvelled at their construction. His vision was blurring, and a hot, searing pain enveloped his neck and shoulder, issuing forth from where the serpent had bitten him. He then remembered what he had done. He had killed the dragon. Through his death pains he managed a small smile. He would die victorious, and with that thought the great agony began to ease inside him. "Beo! Beo! Beo!" Beornwulf became aware of Wiglaf shouting at him, while he sprinkled cold water onto his face and neck to wake him. Their eyes met again, and through his streaming tears of sadness, Wiglaf's face lit up with joy. "I thought I had lost you, dear Beo," he exclaimed as he wiped his tears away with the back of his sleeve. Beo grinned at him, but it was with all the strength he could muster that he did so. "I do not have long, Wiglaf, my friend, and before my passing I would make this request of you. Go swiftly now and look upon that long-hoarded wealth beneath the ground. I should like to see more of these mighty heirlooms we have won with our strength and will. More peaceful will my passing be, were I to know I leave my people well furnished with gold and wealth to aid them in their futures." Wiglaf heeded his friend's request. He knew that time was short, so without delay he lit his abandoned torch, ran back into the stinking hot waters, past the seat of nobility above him, and under the earth he went. Deep underground he emerged from the tunnel into a large pool, and with eyes filled with wonder he saw he was inside a square structure with magnificent columns supporting the roof. Stacked against the walkway that surrounded the pool were golden treasures and jewels beyond measure. Rusted helms and ancient armour hung neatly on the walls. He saw ewers and vessels, all made of gold and caked in jewels, their fair adornment slowly disintegrating in the ceaseless march of time. Then hanging there, in a small room adjoining the walkway surrounding the chamber, his torch reflected beautiful light on a mighty banner all made of gold that cast a luminous glow onto the scene beneath it. Wiglaf remembered his mission. Quickly he gathered the best of what he could see before him. All that he could carry he gathered about him, then hastened back to Beornwulf's side. He did not know if he would find him alive still, and the thought urged him on faster through the steaming stream. He came to Beo's resting place once again, dropping those ancient treasures as he did so to seize upon the true treasure of his life, his king and his friend. Beornwulf's eyes were closed, and once again fear and sadness began to well up within Wiglaf's heart. "Beo! Beo! Beo!" He shook his arms gently again, and Beo's eyes jerked back to consciousness for the very last time. His body seemed incapable of movement now, but speech burst forth from his breast, and Wiglaf listened hard to his greatest friend's departing words. "To you, Wiglaf, and to the everlasting Lord, most glorious King and Master of all, I offer my thanks for these fair treasures I now gaze upon. I bartered my life for those precious things, so that in my passing I might ask of you to use that gold to care for my people's needs. No longer may I here remain. Bid my men, renowned in war, to build a mound for me when the pyre is done. It should tower on high upon Hronesness as a memorial to my folk. Build it high, Wiglaf, so even they who sail their ships over the shadows of the deep will point and exclaim that there be Beornwulf's barrow, and they will remember me. Beo gathered the last of the life within him. In great pain he removed the golden torque from around his neck, then the golden ring of kingship from his finger, and presented them to Wiglaf. My brother, you are the last of the house of the Wakeman's line. All hath fate swept away at their appointed time. I must follow them. And with those words, Beo's eyes closed for the last time. His hands opened skyward, and his soul departed from his body, hastening forth to take its rightful place amongst the steadfast ones. Wiglaf's sorrow was plain to see when the remaining warriors came down from the bluff to meet him. Grief flooded his being, and it was all he could do not to berate those men for leaving their king to die alone. He had witnessed the fear and lack of will in them, plain to see when he had departed to aid his friend against the serpent. But he remembered that Beo had asked them to remain there, and they had done his bidding, a little more willingly perhaps than Wiglaf would have hoped. These were the men that were left for him to help guard this land. He saw weakness in them now, and began to worry for the future of his people. Together they built a strong bier for Beornwulf and laid him upon it, with a great amount of treasure they had now long looted from the vault. No small amount of gold would go up with him in the hot surging fires of his funeral pyre. When all was made ready, the 12 men lifted him atop their shoulders and began the long march along the Swan Road to Titlescombe, following the well-established processional route through Kingstown, where Hrethel ruled, then onwards to the ancient burial grounds on the hilltops by Hronesness. The land fell silent as they departed it. The dragon was now dead, but it would take many years for the fear of that place to leave the unconscious memory of man. Epilogue. War fell on the populace in the months following Beornwulf's death. King Ecbert of Wessex was only a child when he had been forced into exile by the Viking invaders Offa and Beorhtric. As he had grown into a man, they had slowly conquered and stolen his ancestral lands from him, forcing him to seek sanctuary in the land of the Franks. Many years later, Beorhtric died and left the throne of Wessex empty once again. Ecbert garnered significant support from the Franks and returned home to reclaim his rightful place as the King of Wessex. The skirmishes were brief. He retook the greater part of his lands quickly, but the kingdom of the South Saxons would not bend the knee so easily. However, in King Ecbert's final battle, he defeated the pagan Saxons and drove out King Wiglaf from Wessex. Ecbert then installed his own vassal king, Ludecan, in his place, but his victory was short-lived. In the same year, fueled by a defeat he would not let stand, Wiglaf returned to Britain with the mightiest army he could muster from his ancestral lands in Sweden. A great and bloody battle ensued as they approached their home on the high hill by Ipwinesflot. Aethelwulf, son of Ecbert, had been warned of the Saxon army which had landed on the shores of Pevensey, and had gathered the largest force he could summon to face them. They met in a valley beneath the hills of Sussex, and the battle raged on for most of the day. Thousands of great warriors on both sides of the lines died that day, and the rivers ran red with blood. Thereafter the battlefield was ever known as Terrible Down. Wiglaf fought hard that day and won back his lands in a victory that left the army of Ecbert greatly depleted for many years. He held his lands fast for his people from that day forward and conquered much of Britain. Wiglaf became known as a great Anglo-Saxon king who reigned well until the end of his days. His people honoured him when he died, and at his request they buried him in a barrow on the high hills of Hronesness beside the man he admired the most. Soon after, another great king was birthed in those lands. He began his rise to the throne fighting relentless Viking invasions. He fought hard for Christianity, yet he very nearly lost the entire island of Britain to the fierce Saxon raiders. But as with all great men, he rose from the swamps and became remembered as one of the greatest men in history. After many years of struggle and an unlikely friendship with an influential Viking lord, he negotiated a way to peace with the pagan Saxons. His name was Alfred the Great. Alfred took over Ipwinesflot and the ancestral birthing grounds of Christianity in Britain. The people there accepted his rule willingly. Remnants of many nations were alive in that place, and Alfred tried hard to accept, unite and Christianise them all. He forged Wessex's capital in Lorez, utilising the well-known location to meet with many kings and queens in the surrounding realms, and he established 2 mints to further the importance of the area. Alfred became a learned scribe and began to write many documents in his later years. Before his death and succession by Aethelstan, he attempted to pen the history of the land in as much detail as was available to him. It was one of his greatest works and came to be known as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. But the story he copied down most joyfully, orated to him by an old Viking warrior in his dying years, is the story that would become famous throughout the world. That epic tale was called Beowulf.